Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I have for you the mid-year book freakout tag. So this is a trend that is going on YouTube right now that comes up every June and December, and it was originally created a few years ago, and I believe that creator no longer has a channel, but it's basically a check-in with some questions to see how your reading has been for the first half of the year, and then there's another check-in in December to see how the second half of the year is going. It's crazy to believe that we are halfway through the year already. It's definitely felt a lot longer with this coronavirus pandemic and quarantine and whatnot. I'm hoping that the second half of the year will be a little better, but I will say that this year has been really good for my reading. I've read 85 books so far, thanks to quarantine, and my goal is 100. And a lot of books I've read have become favorites of mine. I've read a lot of different genres, a lot of different stuff. I'm doing good, so I'm hoping the rest of the year kind of continues. This question is the hardest question, and that is your favorite book of 2020. So, of course, no book lover is only going to have just one, and I actually have three. One of them I don't have on me because my best friend is borrowing it, but it's 180 Seconds by Jessica Park. It follows two main characters, a boy and a girl who are in their first year of college, and he's doing this social experiment where you have to sit across from a stranger for 180 seconds without saying anything. It's super awkward, but you're supposed to be able to make a connection somehow, and they do, and it turns into a little love story. It was beautiful. I laughed, I cried. The story left me speechless. I ended up having such a book hangover from it, and it was like nothing I've ever read before. So that is definitely a contender. The other two I actually have is November 9th by Colleen Hoover, and this is a very unique idea, and it follows our main characters, Elin and Ben, who meet by chance at a diner on November 9th. And they kind of hit it off, and then they make a pact that for every November 9th, they will meet this diner at the same time and see how each other's year went. The catch is that they can date other people, but they cannot check in throughout the year. So when they can only talk on November 9th. The story was cute, it was fun, it was fast-paced, the writing was beautiful, and it was such a unique story, and it's definitely something that I feel will stay with me for years and years to come. Is the Happily Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. This is the companion novel to her debut novel, Friend Zone, that came out last year. And this follows Sloane as she is grieving something after 2 years, and she's driving down the street and this dog just jumps in her sunroof, and the dog's name is Pepper, and she tries to call the owner for 2 weeks straight to say, hey, like, I have your dog, you should come pick him up, but the owner doesn't answer. So at the end of the 2 weeks, she's like, you know what, this dog is mine now. But Jason, who owns a dog, ends up calling her, and he was on tour in Australia. And he's like, hey, I want my dog back. So this is like an enemies to friends to lovers. It's so cute. It's so fun. It is the best sequel that you've read of 2020. I haven't read a lot of sequels, but one that sticks out to me is Catching Fire by Suzanne. So I read The Hunger Games for the first time this year in May and loved it. And this book was hands down my favorite. It was so action-packed. It was so great seeing Katniss's story continue and this revolution begin. And I was so glad that I read them as late as I did because I didn't have to wait for Mockingjay to come up. Because especially with this cliffhanger, I was able to jump right in, which I was very thankful for. It is a new release that comes out this year that you still need to read. Man, I have a lot of those. Game by Sarah Desai. This has gotten a lot of talk on Goodreads. I don't know much about it besides it being kind of like an enemies to lovers trope, and it follows these two main characters. And from my understanding, the female character's dad is trying to set her up on these blind dates, and she rents some office space, and the male has the other part of the office space, and they don't hit it off very well at first. So this sounds super cute, and the cover is gorgeous, so I am excited. Disappointment. So I really had two that were big disappointments, but one of them I actually don't have on me, so I'm just going to go with one that I do, and that is Masterclass by Christina Dalcher. So I read her debut novel in 2018, which was Vox, and it was so good. And this book is kind of similar to that one, so I figured I would like it, and I did not like it at all. It follows our main character, Elena, who is a teacher at this silver school. So there's three tiers, the silver school, the green school, and the yellow school. And you are put in the school based on your Q, which is basically your IQ. And if you get below a certain point, you get demoted to different schools, and like yellow school is the worst. So her youngest daughter ends up getting put into a Yale school, and her daughter's like very anxious and stuff, so she does whatever she can to try to stop it and to try to intervene, and it goes from there. It's a dystopian and science fiction, which I'm definitely not into, but I liked the book so much I gave this a chance, and it was just boring. The next question is the biggest surprise. So I would say the biggest surprise for me is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. So I'm not big on dystopian, like I just said. And when this book first came out, I was like, nah, I'm good. But my best friend read them for the first time this year, and she told me I would really like them, so I did, and she was right. These were really good. It was a debut or new to you. So I'm gonna change this question up a little bit. I just picked my favorite author overall because she did just have a new book that came out. So I figured it counts, and I already read it and loved it, and that is Elin Hilderbrand in 28 Summers. I have read so many of her books. They are such beachy reads. They all take place on Nantucket. I have not found a single one of her books that I haven't. Newest fictional crush. So that would be Jay from The Trouble with Hating You by Sajni Patel. He was just amazing. He was so sweet to Leah, and he loved her unconditionally. He would do anything for her. He bought her these really expensive shoes, like sign me up. So this is a enemies to lovers, which is my favorite, and it follows Jay and Leah, and they're both Indian, and Leah's parents are dying for her to get married, but she's very independent and doesn't believe in marriage after a sexual assault that happened to her at a young age. And she goes to this dinner not knowing that Jay's going to be there, so he kind of bombards her and doesn't know that she doesn't know he's going to be there, and they don't hit it off, and then he ends up being the lawyer at her company that is facing closure, so she ends up having to work with him on a business level, and their relationship kind of develops from there as they get to know one another, and it was just super sweet and super cute. And newest favorite character. My newest favorite character would be the from Slay by Brittney Morris. As well as Kiara, who basically developed this game called Slay, where it's just for Black people to be in a world where there's no racial slurs, there's no racism, they can just be themselves. And she's been kind of under the table about this. No one knows that she made this game. So we just kind of see her as she faces like a lot of backlash for her game, where people say that she is racist against white people and how it should include white people and all this stuff. And she was just so motivated and determined and loved this game and wanted to show everyone that she just wanted inclusion for people like her who suffer a lot of injustices, and she was just a badass. Next one is a book that made you cry. I don't have this book on me either, and that was 180 Seconds by Disco Park, which I mentioned before. I bawled my eyes out at the end of that book. That made you happy, and that is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel. So this is also kind of like an enemies to lovers, but it's they're lovers to enemies to lovers, and the concept was wicked unique, and it follows Naomi and Nicholas, who are engaged to be married, and as they're getting closer to the wedding, the more apart they're growing, and Naomi realizes she doesn't want to be married to him, but she doesn't want to break off the wedding because his parents are paying for it, and she doesn't want to have to pay them back because she doesn't like them very much. So they start to prank each other, and through that they start to get to know each other again and build a true friendship and develop their relationship more, and it was fun. This one is the most beautiful book you've bought this year or received, and that is going to be Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. Those of you who are familiar with her, all her books are pretty. I mean, the cover underneath this is stunning. I'm very excited to pick this up very soon. A book that you still need to read for the end of the year. There's so many of those. I'm not even gonna lie. I mean, so many. But I think one that I really like to get to before the end of the year is This Big Baby, Stephen King's 11/22/63. My best friend read this, I think it was last year, and she loved it. She hates big books like I do, but she loved this book, and I've been seeing a lot of people talk about it on all different platforms, so I decided I should probably take a stab at it. And all I know is that it follows when JFK was assassinated. That's all I know. And that the question was the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So I actually have two of them. The first one is 10 Things I Hate About Pinky by Sunday Menon. She's another one of my favorite authors, and it's the third book in the Dimple verse. So I'm excited to follow Pinky and her kind of enemies to lovers kind of trope. And then the sequel to Serpent and Dove, which by Shelby Morin, which is Blood and Honey, I believe. The Serpent and Dove is about a witch and a witch hunter who end up married, and it was so good. It was very witchy. It was fun, so I'm really looking forward to the sequel to see how their story continues. So that's it for my mid-year freak out tag. I'm going to post below on my social media platforms and also the questions and some other goodies, so check that out, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.